and welcome to another episode of the Near Death Experience series with Illuminated Hearts. I'm Tori, and today I have with me one of my dear friends, Cassie Lee, kind of like Bruce Lee, but better.
I have a brother named Bruce Lee.
Which obviously nobody knows this, but beforehand we practiced a little and Cassie said that and I was like, darn it, I wish I would have just said it when we were recording because I would have died laughing.
It's still awesome though.
It is. So yes, Cassie Lee with a brother named Bruce Lee, but not to be mistaken by the one who was in the movies.
No. He's as cool though. He's in the NATO. He's in NATO. I don't
That's
know.
awesome.
He's in Portugal.
But we're here to talk about you today and how amazing you are. And so, anyone who doesn't know Cassie, she's a hypnotist. And I met her through our mutual spiritual teacher, Sonia, who has Moon Babes and the Light Tribe. We did a course together, and then we realized that we both love psychology and we both love the brain. And we connected, and it has been awesome sharing some conversations with a seriously like-minded individual and some crazy synchronicities, but that is for another episode of a different type in the future.
Heck yeah.
So, yep.
Or though.
So, Cassie, we have you here today. Would you like to tell anyone like about yourself aside from like obviously you're a hypnotist? Do you want to talk about like what you do and your favorite things? Go for it.
Well, I'm a hypnotist and then my business is called Hypnotic Empowerments. And that's because I am a natural born empowerer. I can find any reason to elevate you. We can focus on the smallest details and make them the biggest and brightest part of you, you know?
Yes.
I just love to watch people expand and reclaim their own inner power. And we do that a lot with addressing traumas that maybe have been repressed. But I just love empowering people. So I use hypnosis as like a tool to do so. Mm-hmm. And I'm a mother of 3. I have a daughter who's 12 and a 10-year-old boy. Oh, he's 11. He's 11. And he's my little redhead. And then I've got a 7-year-old. So,
amazing. And they're super cute.
And they're so fun. They're the best things ever.
Yes. And so your hypnosis and the way that you parent as a mother are inspired by your near-death experiences, are they not?
Oh, yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are.
All right. So I'm excited to hear about your experiences. I've never fully heard the full story. We talked briefly, so this will be a surprise to me. Aside from our little meditation where we had another memory come in.
Oh my goodness.
About that. So I'll leave it to you. Why don't you start and tell us about your experiences and what happened to you?
Okay, so the one that came through the meditation, which blows my mind, it fueled my fear of water for the longest time. Up until I was probably 19, I did not go into bodies of water. And I was 4 years old, and our neighbor to the left of us had a pool in their backyard, and they would barbecue with my parents, and we lived at the base of this mountain in Utah. And I would run in and out, go potty, because they told me there was stuff in the pool that tell me if I peed, and so I would run in and out and go potty. Well, this time I ran back out from using the restroom and I didn't put on my suit. So I jumped in, and I remember at 4 years old having the most clear and surreal thoughts, like, I can't breathe. I can't see. The water burns my eyes. And this thundering voice said, there's a ladder right in front of you. Run and open your eyes. And so I ran to this ladder and I jumped out and I went into my dad and I was like, Papa, you know that I almost died underwater? And he was like, well, I'm glad you didn't, but we have spirits and, there's angels, guardian angels that protect us, Punky. So that was my first experience, and that thundering sound in my head really that was pretty much my pivotal moment into my spiritual sense is.
Yeah, because you're like, you have this thundering voice that you don't know where it's coming from. And then your dad's like, oh, it's your guardian angel. So, like, he's then like, you just there from that moment on, you're like, oh, yeah, I have guardian angels, right?
Yeah. So he always gave that like I'm untouchable feeling as is when he parented, he always gave us like we have supernatural powers, like we're superhuman. You're a wolf man princess, and I would howl at the moon. So I think that fueled my social skills, honestly. I felt untouchable.
Thing. And actually, I was just thinking about this movie was just coming up, or maybe it's a documentary, Superhuman. So I'm gonna watch that, and that you maybe you should be in it. They need to make it. They need to add you.
No way. No way.
Okay, so that's the first one, and I don't remember if I said this at the beginning or not, but Cassie has not just had one experience, and she hasn't just had two experiences either. She's actually had three experiences, which I know that she's going to be able to talk to why she might have had more than one and why some people with near death experiences may have more than one. So okay, so at 4 years old, you almost drowned and a thundering voice came to you and then you're like, "Oh, it's my guardian angel because your dad, that's how your dad explained it." So then what happened next? Like when was the next one?
So at the age of 14, and actually on my birthday, I got the diagnosis of lymphoma. And yeah, I had a big SpongeBob birthday party and just had surgery on my neck. They did the biopsy, called my mom on my birthday, like literally November 21st,
Wow.
and told her that her daughter had cancer. So after a few rounds of chemo, my doctor went out of town. He went to Hawaii to this conference and he left a PA in charge. Well, that PA didn't get the note that I was to stop steroids. You're supposed to go 30 days on, 30 days off. I had so much fluid in my lungs that I stopped breathing. And that was during a surgical procedure as well. So they had to resuscitate me on the table. But what's craziest about that first incident is the anesthesiologist asked me where I'm going to go when I go to sleep. And I'm like, I heard Shania Twain's in town and I wanted to go to that concert. So no crap, he puts me under and he puts some chapstick around the mask. And I remember it being like that. You remember those Smuckers, Dr. Pepper? Okay, he put that. Yeah. And and that's the last thing I remember. Well, I woke up, but I told him that I was at the Shania Twain concert. Like I told everybody. Everybody was in this room and my mom was bawling and my sister was like, I don't know, I think she was playing with Brat dolls.
So you were on the table and then you had so much fluid in your lungs that they had to resuscitate you. Do you know how long
Yeah.
that you were out for or they don't know?
No, they didn't even actually address it with me until later. My mom was driving me home after and the next day. They had something, I had a lung infection after that too. So the next day, my mom's driving me home in this ugly green car and she's like, "So do you remember anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was at the Shania Twain concert in Birmingham, Mom. I was on stage with her. I was right next to her. And I remember singing the songs, the energy of the stage, the candles that came up and the lighters. Like I remember everything, minute details, what she was wearing. And I could tell you what she was wearing. And my mom's like, "Do you remember like anything else?" I'm like, "No, I went to a Shania Twain concert. It was a dream, Mom." And she's like, "No, it wasn't." She's like,
So
"You
so wait, so did you see it from like the perspective of like you could look down and see your body or
no,
like
no, I was weightless." That was a feeling that I've never told anybody is I had no weight. Like breathing to me, it was like I didn't have to breathe because I was just all inclusive. Like there was no, I was weightless. I didn't feel like I was wearing a skin. When you go into deep meditation and you just zen out and
mhm,
you're like, oh my gosh, this is what zen feels like. And you're just totally present and just grateful and still,
mhm.
you feel weightless. that's how it felt. I didn't feel anything. And
And
even like the tension in my neck from having the tumors removed, I always had that discomfort. Like that's something I remember feeling is I didn't have, even in dreams, I remember thinking about the discomfort in my neck.
so like when you were having dreams around that time, you were still noticing this discomfort, but when you're at this concert, while you're on the table, you're feeling weightless, free, no, nothing bothering you.
Yeah,
And did you remember watching the whole concert?
the whole concert though. I was there and I know that they stabilized me and kept me under, but I don't know how long for.
Yeah.
And the conversation with my mom was really uncomfortable because she was trying not to freak me out and tell me that that happens. But I wasn't even scared when she told me, but even the initial diagnosis, something inside me told me that there were two outcomes. I would have I would have peace of mind and soul and I was fine, or that I was just going to be fine. It was dependent on my attitude.
Mhm. Mhm.
I knew that 14 having the conversation. It was just like, how am I going to go about this? And I held a positive attitude.
Mhm. When did you realize that that was a near death experience that you had?
My mom actually brought it up nonchalantly in a grocery store, and that's when it actually like hit me in the core being like, oh my gosh, you're just now telling me this woman? So she just brought it up.
She was talking to someone at the grocery store, or you guys?
Yeah, somebody she used to clean with in Alabama, and she's like, yeah, she's my miracle child. She could tell the future, and she survived cancer and death twice. And I'm like, say what? Can you repeat
And
that?
how old were you at that time?
I was 15. We were just about to leave Alabama.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so, like, as a 15-year-old, when you heard that, how did you feel? And what did you think?
I felt invincible, honestly, because one, I'm glad she didn't tell me when I was going through the chemo. Um, that Shania Twain concert was too real and too good to be true, and the feelings, I was too present. I can't perform that kind of presence and be here now mood like I did there. I was enjoying it. The music fueled me and it was light and I felt it vibrating everywhere. It was just a beautiful Shania was my girl though. And to know she had a concert the day I was having surgery, I was like, Mom, if I do really good, And then I ended up there. So
That's amazing. So, wait, but you're saying that your mom said that you survived death twice when she was talking in the grocery store. And so, when you're saying that, are you talking about when you were 4 also, or are you talking about another time when?
no, that one almost seemed brushed under the table. And the only person I told was my dad. And well, he's passed on, so he can't validate that for me. I'm sure he's, I'm sure my mom knows about that, but I can't really. That one just came to me in the meditation. That
Right,
was a
well,
big
that's what
moment.
I was thinking, and so we really talked about the Shania Twain one, which is, like,
Yeah.
blows my mind that you would. I mean, I guess, like, a 14-year-old, like, I mean, you could have gone to heaven, but you wanted to go to the Shania Twain concert, which I
Right?
think is, like, pretty incredible. But then, so what about the other one that happened, the other one happened before this one, the Shania Twain one?
Yeah. So that one didn't have anything beautiful. Like
Okay, no, I
my
like,
heart stopped when they were doing some procedure for my portacath. They had to change something, but they didn't realize that I was going through withdrawals from pain medication. And I didn't, I was an adamant child. I thought plant medicine was going to save me. So I took it upon myself to go cold turkey off of steroids and my pain medication, which was Loratab, I think, at the time. So I was in a weak state and they still proceeded with the surgery. So I thought I passed, but my heart was so weak. And then there was fluid. It was just a double whammy. And they said I flatlined for 37 seconds, came back, And my mom was like, "What can I get you?" That time she kind of told on it, though. She was like, "What can I get you? Oh my God, honey, I'm so happy you're here." And she's bawling and like mauling my face. And she's like, "Do you like peanut butter cups? You can eat now. How does your throat feel?" And I'm like, holy crap, it hurts. But and my ribs. That's one thing. My ribs were in so much pain. I had a cracked rib and I knew something different happened.
So
And I had a hard time breathing.
that happened during the surgery when they
Yeah.
were resuscitating you?
Yeah.
Wow.
37 seconds gone. And
Wow.
then the rib pain after, like, even driving down the road, hitting a bump, I was in tears.
Wow.
And the way my mom was treating me, I knew something was up. She catered to my every want, desire, need for the next few months. Like
Wow.
something profound happened.
How old were you at that time?
I was 15.
So you were 15. So this one happened after the Shania Twain one. So Shania Twain, then 37 seconds?
Yes, 37 seconds.
Okay. And so you have no idea, like, with Shania Twain, like, how long or like what else was happening, and like, have you ever tried to like validate that like you were there, and like I don't know how you would like.
I don't know how I would, except for I know that she had a concert the same day I had surgery in Birmingham that year. And I know I could pinpoint it that way.
Mhm.
And the paperwork, I'm sure I could get my hands on it. But yeah, I don't know how to validate it, except for I knew the difference was I started hearing more voices, seeing more movement, and having a lot more experience with people having colors and shadows. Not necessarily shadows, they were almost like light people behind them. But
Cool.
most,
Okay, I'm so glad you started talking about that because I have listened to other near death experiences where people talk about having newfound capabilities that turn on after having their experience, like something like it's almost like it opens up your psychic senses, like. And so did that happen to you afterwards? It sounds like, yeah, heck yeah, it did.
okay, let's talk about that. From a young age, I've always heard voices. Always heard some voice since 4 years old on. And I even posted a plaque on my Facebook that said Superstar Kid of the Week, right?
Mhm.
That's because at 5 years old, my mom submitted a story. Um, my sister was late and she kept on having these appointments and she was afraid she was going to have another cesarean, and they didn't know the sex of the baby at that time because it was really bad picture quality. And my mom was coming out of the doctor's office, and I guess I looked at her really matter of factly and said, "Don't worry, mom, she'll be here in 3 days." That was October 3rd, 1994. My sister was born October 6th, 1994. And my mom didn't know the sex. So she banked on that, by the way. So she thought I was special. But yeah, and that's how I became Superstar Kid of the Week. I've always heard those things. But after that, I think it enhanced them.
Mhm. So wait, how old were you at that time when your sister
I
was
was 5.
you were
Well, I
5?
was almost 5. My sister and I are like 4 years and 11 months apart.
Okay, so you've had that since you were really young, as
Yeah.
long as pretty much as long as you can remember. And wait, so for someone who may not understand exactly what that means, like hearing voices, can you describe like what does that voice sound like? Like, you know what I mean?
It depends for me because sometimes it comes in almost grandmotherly. And then when it's really something I need to pay attention to, it almost reverberates in my eardrums. Like, oh, that's a powerful voice. I need to listen to that one.
Yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say, how do you know that it's not your own thoughts happening?
right? Because I don't think like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
This whole feeling, the butterflies in your stomach, the goosebumps on your arm, there's just a knowing. And when you become in tune with your level, or you understand what you're working with, or your abilities, you fine tune them, you start becoming hypersensitive to these things, and then it just becomes almost second skin or second nature.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so
Sometimes it's just a knowing and a thought, but a lot of times there's a voice, and that
mhm.
makes me sound like crazy.
Well, when you get validated with things like that, like how you're saying, like, in 3 days she's going to be born, and then in 3 days a girl is born, it's like,
Yeah.
how many times do you need to have an experience like that before you start actually believing that it's not just your own voice? You know what I mean?
For the longest time, I'd walk around thinking everybody could do this stuff. Like, I literally thought everybody heard voices. It was probably 10 or 11, and I was talking to some neighbor kid under the playground. We were playing in the wood chips. I remember it vividly. And I'm like, "Did you hear that? Melba's calling for help." And my neighbor fell. She was, yeah, her little stoop. She was an older lady that lived next to us and gave us these god awful butterscotch candies to help her around the house. And yeah, and she fell on her stoop. So I was able to call my mom, who was a CNA, and she was able to get her up with her gait belt. I
Wow.
remember that.
Wow.
And my neighbor friend, she stopped hanging out with me because she thought I was nuts. But
Well, okay, so obviously you had some really incredible things happening prior to your near death experiences at 14 and 15. But after you turned 14, or you had your experience at 14, things got more intense for you. And what did that look like?
um for the longest time they thought that I had retina issues because I would see colors in front of people, behind people, around people, and I would describe them as blue, green, white, and they had movement. And so they thought that I had nerve damage, or like there was a blood supply issue to my retina. So I went and saw like three different eye specialists, ophthalmologists, and they couldn't diagnose anything. My retina was perfect. Everything looked fine. And later, I think it was an herbologist. I read something, or an herbologist told my mom, he's like, no, she sees auras. Somebody told my mom that I see auras, and then it clicked for me, and then I started doing research on auras. It
And
was
so at
just a
that
whole
time, you didn't even know what an aura really was.
I had no idea. My mom was very supportive spiritually because I think it intrigued her in a way. She used to do runes, and she was pretty diverse in her experience. She wanted to try it all, and that was cool. So having that was nice. We were able to relate on like esoteric things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my mom kind of was the catalyst for that.
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody told me that I saw auras, that clicked different, and it was almost like, oh wow, I'm going to research this, and then everything stuck. That's the difference. When you're passionate and you're looking for an answer, things stick in your brain. There's chemicals that make them stick. And I remember seeing different auras around my family, like my stepdad, Wayne, at the time. I saw his aura and it was green and brown. And I thought, what does that mean? So my mom bought me this book and I started diagnosing him.
Wow.
We did have congestive heart failure, by the way.
So brown meant congestive heart failure to you?
Yeah, it was
Book?
just like there was a disturbance too. I don't know how to explain it except for there's movement around people, and the aura seems to like be a gassy movement, and it vibrates and has a flow, a natural flow. And when the body's in flow, you can tell it's a good, healthy body. But for me, it was, I don't know how to describe it except for a vibration in water. You know how it moves. There was something disrupting the regular vibration of his aura. And so that started standing out more. And then it was almost like I could effortlessly view anybody's aura.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I would find this homeostasis or this natural rhythm for him and see where things were disrupted.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And
And
so,
then we just kept running into people that had insights on that, by the way.
hmm, very weird.
Yeah, like natural synchronistic run-ins.
That's crazy. And so was aside from your stepdad, were there any other people that you saw their aura and were able to like help them by telling them like, hey, maybe you should get something checked out? Or do you typically keep it to yourself because
I didn't speak up unless my mom asked me to for the longest time. She
Mhm,
knew she trusted me in a way, like she would ask me for my input on something and then it was almost like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and I would sound grown up. And she was like, oh, that's my old soul, my little intuitive girl, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But no, she would have me do there was a guy that she worked with and she was like, "Hey, can you do a reading over the phone?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's his name, date of birth?" And I'll try to tap in and I've been able to do stuff like that and her neighbors mostly were my audience and my
Mhm,
clients.
mhm.
I don't know what they're called. They
Yeah,
were my guinea pigs.
yeah. And like how did they build your confidence with it too?
I almost felt like I stepped aside. I almost the information would come here, right here. It was almost like I was reading it from my mind's eye,
Mhm.
word for
Really
word.
interesting.
Yeah, there was a neighbor that asked when she would get married, and I said, "There's 2 pathways. One pathway, he's going to find distraction with gambling and blah, 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 or November, he's gonna propose." November came. Well, he didn't propose, but guess what? He put her in $80,000 worth of debt with gambling.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah, I was 22.
wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, what other were there any other abilities that you noticed were intensified after your near death experience?
I was just really in tune with people's emotions and pregnancies. I could tell when there was extra energy in a body. I can't even describe that, but it almost is like a power. I feel it in my stomach. Phantom baby. That's what I call it. Like when you're pregnant, after you have the baby, you could be just sitting there and I don't know if it's gas. I don't know what it is, but they call it the phantom kicks. And I would have that around certain people and then they would end up pregnant. They
Hmm.
would like,
Interesting.
and then I'm really good with genders. I have yet to be wrong to date.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm really good at telling feminine and masculine energy.
That's awesome. That's a really cool
But
skill.
don't ask me for readings because I won't.
We can
Just
put
joking.
money on it. Like you can be like,
Yeah, those cost money.
example, you should totally use that to your benefit. Hey, I bet you 50 bucks that's a girl.
$2,000. No, we're talking big money. People want to know. I'll save you the money. How much does it cost for an ultrasound?
Yeah, seriously. Oh my
125 here for one of those 3D. So
God,
no,
that's awesome. That is hilarious. All right. So some people believe that they sign up for kind of like how you're saying with like the two pathways or in general like before we come to earth maybe we sign a soul contract. Like do you believe that you signed a soul contract where your near death experiences were a part of that?
I felt like they were out. Like I had choices.
Mhm. That's super
So there
interesting.
was this um, psychic teachers podcast, and they talk about soul contracts. And I was a meter reader at the time, and it was like an intro to podcast for me. And they talked about how there's outs for people. They might have they schedule these outs in the life or they're in between, right? And when they come up with their life plan, you have outs 21, 14, and whatever, right? Before 6. And I want to say that resonated with me. I won't say it's accurate because I don't know, but my feeling was I had a choice.
Mhm. That's
I
really
can't
interesting.
describe that to a T, but it was like you could stay living in this Shania Twain memory or
Yeah.
okay, here's an example. In that Shania Twain concert, when I was watching that woman dance her ass off, she I was like, "Oh, I wonder how my mom's doing." And I was just back.
Mhm. Hmm. Mhm.
So it was like my ties were strong, or it was like, the welfare of my mom was important, and I was back.
And you're pulled back in.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because you're not the only near death experiencer to be somewhere else and to think or ask about a family member and to be pulled back. And so there's something to do or some importance to caring about your family and needing to be here for your family, which is really interesting. Do you feel like that thought had a tie to your purpose for coming back?
Yeah, and right now I'm having, like, this massive, like, aha moment 'cause they say thoughts are spells or words are spells and thoughts hold power, especially if there's emotion tied to it. Yeah, because it kind of ties the manifestation thing together for me right now, like a loop. It was an open loop and now it's closed. It just clicked. But yeah, I think that the emotional ties you have on the 3D plane are important. And um, I think ultimately I was worried about her because she wasn't supported in her marriage. And I knew that uh, her anxiety seemed to run high in that marriage, and so her welfare was a priority to me. And the instant I said, "Oh, I wonder how my mom's doing," and boom, I'm waking up and they're trying to shove Nutter Butters and Yahoos at me, like, "Hey, how are you?"
You're fine, you're okay.
Yeah, like, "Are you good? How's your," like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's really incredible. That the
Right.
power of needing to be here for somebody is so important and can draw you back when you have even a choice to go and be in Shania Twain concert like it's heaven.
That's so crazy to me that Shania Twain was my pick, but I see it because I knew every word of all her songs.
Sing
Man, I feel
along.
like a woman. I jammed out. I know I was there.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Wow, I can't even. And so, why three? Like, do you have any idea why you might have had three experiences? I mean, maybe before this talk and you kind of had forgotten about the third one, and so like even just having two is like more than so many. I don't even know what the odds of having one near death experience is. And so like having three, like, do you have any thoughts on why that might have happened for you?
No, I think my understanding was the diagnosis of cancer didn't even make me flinch, though. That's what surprised me most. Was my mom telling me in the kitchen and she's having an emotional reaction and I'm emotionless because I knew the outcome. I knew it was a foreign and alien kind of calm that intercepted me and overcame me.
Mhm. Hmm.
And understanding like, oh, it's going to be tough, but I'm going to have the best damn time. And I
Yeah.
did. I went to every chemo treatment and did arts and crafts with the other kids. I brought beads, I brought clay, I brought yarn. I mean, we were always doing something, origami even. And I built a support system in that children's hospital with even my nurses kept in touch with me up until I moved to Missouri this last time with my baby girl. So,
That's really incredible. And I have two questions that made me think of. Like, number one, do you think that your cancer then was more of a lesson for the people around you than even for you? Because if you're going through it and you're just like, I'm fine, I'm going to be fine, but everyone else is worried about you, like maybe it was their lesson.
That's a good question. I mean, it seemed to put a little more emphasis on my mom and I's relationship, and
Mhm.
it motivated her to leave a bad situation because the marriage she was in wasn't the healthiest, and so maybe. And my sister and I, like, we've been through a lot together, and we're close as heck, and it built this unbreakable bond because she's seen me at my lowest, and
Mhm.
I think, yeah, that put a lot of emphasis on my sister and I becoming close, and
Yeah. Like
it
other people around you recognizing what matters and being close to you rather than pushing you away or not thinking so much.
the biggest shift for me though was being able to speak my mind, and
Yeah, we should
it
talk
was
about that.
throat cancer,
Mhm.
throat chakra, speaking your truth.
Mhm.
So I had a chakra attunement after I
Mhm.
decided to quit chemo. I quit chemo cold turkey essentially and tried this plant-based diet. And I knew inside of me the way things were lining up that that was the best route for me.
Mhm.
And the thing that really, really changed was I spoke my truth from that moment forward.
From the moment of your experience for him.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The moment I came out, it, it was different and everybody saw the shift. I started speaking up. I started righting wrongs, and I was still a 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl, but my parents were going through this huge, drawn out custody battle, and my dad was lying to a custody evaluator. And I spoke to him like I wanted to for the first time. And I remember being so like amazed with myself. It empowered me because the only person I was ever afraid of in my life was to my dad and upsetting my dad. But for me to open and speak up for my sister and I, it changed me to a cellular core soul level.
Mhm. And what about your experience made you feel so confident and have the ability to do that?
I faced cancer. I beat it. I survived 2 near death experiences, 3 really. 4 years old came to me today, but I survived so much. It was a click in my brain like, why are you why am I tripping over that? Like, why don't I just speak up? And I survived cancer. They could be mad at me. Like, I'm a badass. Be mad. I don't care. That's how I felt. It was empowering, like, my body, I have a purpose. I'm still here. My body's still fighting for me. I won a big battle twice, not just once, twice. It came back.
Mhm.
And I'm here telling my story. They told me I wasn't going to have kids because of the radiation of my lymph nodes. They told me that the chemotherapy was going to cause irreparable damage. And look at me, I've got 3, and it was effortless.
You
So I don't know.
are full of miracles. Like your life is sprinkled with miracles.
They say, I heard Anita Morajani, I can't remember her name. She said, remission is remembering your mission.
That's amazing. I love
And that's profound, remembering your mission. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to empower.
Yeah. And so these experiences, your near death experiences, your cancer, surviving your cancer, getting off of chemo and healing yourself with a plant-based diet all inspired you to empower others who've been through trauma. And
Yeah.
what better person than you who has gone through so many things that the typical person can't even say that they've ever even thought of to be sharing that light with the world. Like it's incredible.
It feels good, man. Once you find your purpose, you're driven differently.
That's right. And when you were around that age, is that when you felt like you found your purpose? Or did you feel like you were finally speaking up, but when did the purpose come in?
So I always fought for the underdog. I decided I was going to be like everybody's friend and I was going to fight for the underdog. And I did. I did do that. Um, that's that was my mission from 15 to 17, you know. And then when I had kids, purpose kind of lost its meaning. They were my purpose. They were my babies. But
Mhm.
newfound purpose, I think, was when my dad passed away. His his exiting and the dream that he left me with when he exited said it was time to get back onto finding your purpose and hey, there's more to life because that's irrefutable. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody was there when I woke up, you know? It was his funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I'm guessing that based on your experiences, did you always believe in the afterlife, or did something shift in you about your perception of the afterlife after your near death experience?
It's always been known to me. I never doubted it. I've never doubted the afterlife.
And during this interview, we've talked about some pretty out there things, and I truly love how I mean, if you're not walking and embodying what you preach about how, you had your throat chakra activation, you speak your truth, you and you are unapologetically yourself. I like love it so much. It is incredible. But to some people, they might listen to what you're saying and be like, I don't know if that's true. Like, I don't know if, what if her voices are just in her head? Or what if she does have some sort of retinal damage that's not diagnosed yet? What would you have to say to those people that are kind of skeptical and unsure?
I will never force my beliefs. I'll hold space for anybody. I love everybody. You are all souls. You all matter. You're all human. You deserve the best and the most unconditional love. I want you to have a safe place for your nervous system to feel flexible and free. I want you to be happy no matter what that looks like to you. I want you to find your happiness. But like, this is mine. Helping
I
people
love that. I'm like sitting
is
here
mine.
like, yes, I'm so this is an empowerment coach right here.
Yes. I mean, it is a lot to believe, especially if you grew up in a traditional religious upbringing like I have. I was raised LDS, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm,
They don't talk about the afterlife the way I talk about it.
mhm.
But I don't know. There's a lot of stories like mine. And are we all liars?
I don't know. I
I
guess
mean,
we're gonna have to find out one day.
do some research, read about it, ask me some questions. I don't care. I'm open.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that about you. Well, the work that you do with trauma and guiding people through trauma is so needed because so many people struggle with trauma and are afraid to talk about it and afraid to look at it, and it hurts. It is really really painful, and that's why it can become someone's darkest shadow. But to see, and we were talking about this on the phone the other day, to see someone like you be able to face your trauma and be able to talk about it and be able to say, I'm not defined by these things, have impacted me, but they do not define me. And I want to empower other people is so incredible and so uplifting. And you are just such an incredible human. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to share your story with me today. And I think the listeners, whoever's listening to this, is getting so much more than just a near death experience story because this is really your life story, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's insane.
It really is. And I know there's so many more components to it that we didn't even get to touch on today. But is there anything else that you would like to share with the world about how your near death experiences impacted you?
Yeah. Do you know what I love most about that? Is the work I'm doing now, I can go back to that person that felt alone and um different because she's bald, you know, she's a young girl, she's in the prime of middle school, like, 8th grade. I dropped out of school. I was bald. And I think that's where a lot of my self-confidence issues stemmed from. It was a very formative age, right? I look back now and I am so grateful for that experience because I am able to hold so much space and love for people who feel different, alone, or outcasted, I judged, self-confident or self-conscious. I love that that happened to me because the work I did going back and loving that poor balding, sweet 14, 15-year-old girl is profound in my work. I love her so much. And that is what allows me to hold so much space for everybody else. Like, I am so grateful for my experiences with cancer. I really am. Because everybody deserves that kind of love. Everybody deserves a space where their nervous system is flexible and comfortable. Everybody deserves a, to be heard. That's and acknowledged. The traumas, they happened. Your pain, it's real. I love you. Like, I love everybody. I love you. Here, be my friend.
Isn't it crazy how sometimes we have to go through such a traumatic experience to actually deep dive into something that we really need to learn, like loving ourselves? Like, say you didn't get cancer, you maybe wouldn't have noticed the fact that maybe you weren't loving yourself as much as you needed to. And so that extreme situation of polarity showed you, hey, I need to go and make this important. And now it's like my life mission to make this important for other people too.
Yeah, even you facing your mortality through a death of a parent or your own kind of mortality or scare, you have you innately do some soul searching. And I remember sitting on my mom's leather couch thinking, I have been a real heinous sister. I want to love my sister like she's my best friend. I want to love her like I want to be loved. And I used to sleep on her floor because I loved her differently after that. She was my sister. She was like, it redefined everything for me, everything. And it was a beautiful experience. Not like I say cancer is beautiful. My heart goes out to everybody facing it. But for me, that's my takeaway and the wisdom I had. Yeah, I was young but gosh, the way it redefined my relationship with myself and my sister and my family and those around me and my friends, it made me a different person. It did.
It's incredible.
I don't even know if that answered your question because it's important, I guess.
It is important. That is all so important. I'm so glad that we got to do this today and I got to know a little bit of a piece of you a little bit deeper today, and that you were willing to share this message and this specific situation in your life that has just totally infiltrated everything and become a huge part of who you are today. And so if anyone that was listening today resonated with you and wants to reach out to you and ask you any more questions or even want to work with you in any aspect, where would you like them to come find you?
Hypnotic Empowerment LLC on Facebook, or Cassie Lee, add me. I don't care. Instagram, Hypnotic Empowerment's on Instagram too.
Hypnotic Empowerment's on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm redefining my whole brand. I'm going to make it big and bold, and we're going to empower people.
And she's empowering, and it's going to be big.
It's going to empower masses.
She is empowering anyone who's willing to join.
You get empowered. You get empowered.
No, you get empowered. Everyone gets empowered.
Everybody's getting empowered. That's all I'm saying.
All right. All right. Well, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much once again. And this has been another episode of the Near Death Experience series with Illuminated Hearts. If you have enjoyed this and you'd like to know more about me, you can find me at illuminated_hearts_ on Instagram and illuminated-hearts.com.